connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. The Architect's Pride. Vincent Thorne stood at the panoramic window of his award-winning high-rise design, watching Seattle's skyline glisten in the morning light. At 42, he had built Thorne Architectural Solutions into one of the Northwest's most prestigious firms, known for innovative, sustainable designs that transformed urban landscapes. The son of a construction worker and a nurse, Vincent had clawed his way through architecture school on scholarships and night jobs. He'd met Meredith Preston during his final year at university. She was studying art history, the daughter of wealthy Bellevue socialites. Their worlds couldn't have been more different, but their connection was immediate and intense. Mr. Thorne, his assistant Renee, appeared at his office door. The Osaka investors are waiting in the conference room. Vincent nodded, straightening his tie. Tell them I'll be right there. And Renee, could you confirm my anniversary arrangements with Sunset Cove Resort? I want everything perfect for next weekend. 10 years of marriage to Meredith deserve celebration. He'd secretly arranged a luxurious 10-day getaway to their honeymoon resort in Hawaii, complete with a renewal of vows ceremony on the beach. Vincent had even commissioned a custom platinum and sapphire anniversary ring that matched the blue of Meredith's eyes. Later that evening, Vincent arrived home to their waterfront house to find Meredith engaged in a heated phone conversation. Don't care what he's planned, Mom. You're right about everything. She lowered her voice, not noticing Vincent in the doorway. I can't keep doing this. 10 years is long enough. Vincent retreated silently, his mind racing. Diane Preston had made her disapproval of him clear from day one. New money, she called it behind thin smiles at family gatherings. Not our kind, darling, she'd whispered to Meredith when she thought he couldn't hear. He'd endured it for Meredith's sake, believing their love was stronger than Diane's poisonous influence. Now he wasn't so sure. Vincent poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon and retreated to his home office, unlocking the bottom drawer of his desk. Inside lay a small black notebook filled with observations and suspicions he'd accumulated over the past 8 months. Unexplained absences, secretive phone calls, Meredith's growing coldness. He'd ignored his instincts, convincing himself he was paranoid from working too hard. But hearing Meredith's words tonight crystallized his fears. Something was deeply wrong, and Vincent Thorne wasn't a man who accepted betrayal. Chapter 2. Whispers and Shadows. The following evening, Vincent arrived home early, intending to confront Meredith about her conversation with Diane. Instead, he found their living room occupied by Meredith, her mother, and Natalie, Meredith's younger sister. Vincent paused in the hallway, out of sight. You have to tell him before your anniversary trip, Natalie was saying, her voice concerned. It's not fair to let him go through with all these plans when you've already decided. Hush, Natalie, Diane snapped. Meredith doesn't owe him explanations. He's been taking advantage of her connections for years, using the Preston name to elevate his business while he travels constantly, leaving her alone. Vincent's jaw tightened. His business trips had always been necessary for securing international contracts. Meredith had understood that, or so he'd thought. Mom's right, Meredith sighed. Besides, I've already told him I can't go on the trip. I said I have that gallery exhibition to prepare for. What did Vincent say? Natalie asked. Meredith's laugh was brittle. He offered to reschedule. So accommodating, always trying to be the perfect husband. It's exhausting. He doesn't deserve you, Diane declared. Never has. Bradford has been more attentive to you in 6 months than Vincent has in years. Vincent froze. Bradford Harlow. The name rang familiar. One of Diane's friend's sons. Old Seattle money. The pieces suddenly clicked into place with sickening clarity. Bradford understands the world we come from, Meredith was saying. There's no struggle to fit in, no chip on his shoulder about proving himself. The women laughed, and Vincent felt ice replace the blood in his veins. 10 years of marriage reduced to mockery in his own home. Later that night, Vincent lay awake beside his sleeping wife, plans forming in his mind. The anniversary trip was still booked. Diane's vicious campaign and this Bradford person had stolen his wife, but Vincent wasn't about to let them steal his dignity too. The next morning, Vincent called the one person who might help him understand what was happening, Natalie. "Can we meet for coffee?" he asked when she answered. "There's something important I need to discuss." Natalie agreed, sounding guilty. Good, Vincent thought. She should be at a small cafe away from their usual haunts. Natalie confessed everything. Bradford Harlow had been pursuing Meredith for nearly a year, with Diane's enthusiastic blessing. Meredith had been seeing him secretly for the past 6 months. "I told her it was wrong," Natalie said, tears in her eyes. "I've always thought you were good for her, Vincent. You made her happier, more real somehow. But Mom has been in her ear constantly, and Bradford offers the lifestyle she grew up with." "The lifestyle she never gave up," Vincent corrected bitterly. "I never asked her to change." "I know," Natalie whispered. "I'm so sorry." Vincent studied his sister-in-law. At 28, Natalie had always been the black sheep of the Preston family, more interested in her work as a marine biologist than society events, more substance than surface. "Do you have plans next week?" Vincent asked suddenly. Natalie looked confused. "Just research at the lab." "Why? How would you like to go to Hawaii?" Chapter 3. The Pivot Point. "Cancel our anniversary trip," Vincent repeated, keeping his voice carefully neutral. Meredith wouldn't meet his eyes, fiddling with her wedding ring. "The gallery exhibition needs my full attention. I can't get away right now." "The exhibition isn't for 2 months," Vincent pointed out. "There's so much preparation," she insisted. "Mom's helping me network with the right collectors." Vincent nodded slowly. "I understand. Work comes first sometimes." Meredith looked relieved at his easy capitulation. She didn't know that Vincent had already heard her true reasons, that he'd already altered his plans. "Will you be disappointed if I still go?" he asked casually. "The reservations are non-refundable, and I could use some time to think about the Anderson project." "Of course not," Meredith replied too quickly. "You should definitely go." Vincent smiled without humor. "Then it's settled." That weekend, Vincent moved methodically through the house while Meredith was at her mother's, gathering evidence of her affair. He found hotel receipts, intimate text messages with Bradford saved under the name Gallery Contact, and a hidden key to what he discovered was a luxury apartment in downtown Seattle, their love nest. The final confirmation came when he followed Meredith one evening to a high-end restaurant, watching through the window as she melted into Bradford Harlow's embrace. Bradford was exactly as Vincent had imagined. Polished, entitled, born into the world Vincent had worked so hard to enter. Vincent took photographs, then drove home to complete his preparations. The day before his scheduled departure, Vincent overheard Meredith on the phone with her mother once again. "Vincent's leaving tomorrow for Hawaii," she laughed softly. 10 days of freedom. Bradford's taking me to the cabin at Lake Chelan." "Perfect timing," Diane replied, her voice audible through the speaker. "By the time Vincent returns, you can have the divorce papers ready. I've already spoken with Preston about freezing Vincent out of the architectural circle. He doesn't deserve you or the connections you've given him." "He doesn't suspect a thing," Meredith said confidently. "He's been working so much, he barely notices I'm gone half the time." Vincent slipped away, rage burning cold in his chest. Preston was Meredith's father, a man who sat on multiple development boards and had indeed opened doors for Vincent's firm. The Preston family wasn't just planning to end his marriage. They were plotting to destroy his career. The next morning, Vincent kissed Meredith goodbye with mechanical precision. She played the role of supportive wife, helping him load his luggage into the car. "Enjoy your thinking time," she said, not quite hiding her relief at his departure. "Oh, I will," Vincent replied, offering her a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Sometimes distance provides perfect clarity. 4 hours later, Vincent stood at the Sunset Cove Resort check-in desk alongside Natalie Preston. "Welcome back to Sunset Cove, Mr. and Mrs. Thorne," the receptionist said cheerfully, having misunderstood their relationship. Neither Vincent nor Natalie corrected her. It was the first step in Vincent's carefully orchestrated plan. Chapter 4. Paradise Weaponized. The oceanfront bungalow was exactly as Vincent had envisioned for his anniversary. Luxurious, romantic, perfect. Now it would serve a different purpose. "Are you sure about this?" Natalie asked as they settled in. Once we start, there's no going back. Vincent looked at his sister-in-law, appreciation in his eyes. Despite being a Preston, Natalie had integrity that her family lacked. When she learned the full extent of Meredith and Bradford's affair and Diane's manipulations, she'd been genuinely disgusted. Meredith and your mother destroyed what should have been sacred, Vincent said quietly. They're not just ending my marriage, they're trying to end my career. Everything I've built. Natalie nodded solemnly. Bradford's no better. He's always taken whatever he wanted, regardless of who it hurt. As evening fell, they executed the first stage of Vincent's plan. On the bungalow's picturesque deck, backlit by the sunset, Natalie took a selfie with Vincent, their faces close together, glasses of champagne in hand. Ready? Vincent asked, pulling up Meredith's contact. Do it, Natalie confirmed. Vincent sent the photo with a simple caption, "First night in paradise. Wish you were here." Then they waited. Within minutes, Vincent's phone buzzed with Meredith's response. Looks beautiful. Glad you're enjoying yourself. Her casual response confirmed she hadn't recognized her own sister in the deliberately shadowed photo. Perfect. Now we wait, Vincent said. By tomorrow, she'll have figured out who you are, and the panic will start. Over dinner, Natalie revealed more about Bradford Harlow's history, his string of affairs with married women, his reputation for discarding them once the challenge was gone. He pursued my best friend from college 3 years ago, Natalie explained. Her husband found out, forgave her, and Bradford immediately lost interest. It's the deception he enjoys, not the relationship. And Meredith knows this? Vincent asked incredulously. Mama's convinced her that Bradford's different with her, Natalie sighed. That she's special. The next morning, they enacted phase 2. Vincent took a photo of Natalie walking on the beach in a wide-brimmed hat. Her face obscured, but her distinctive Preston posture unmistakable to anyone who knew her. This time, he sent it to both Meredith and Diane. Morning beach walk with delightful company. By noon, Meredith had called 3 times. Vincent let the calls go to voicemail, listening to her increasingly confused messages. Vincent, who's that woman? Why aren't you answering? The third message held a note of suspicion. Is that, it can't be. That evening, they staged the killing blow. Natalie sat across from Vincent at the resort's most romantic restaurant, clearly visible as herself now. Vincent took a photo of her, smiling and raising her glass. The message he sent detonated the comfortable fiction Meredith had constructed. Having a great time with your sister. She told me everything. Within minutes, Vincent's phone exploded with notifications. 47 calls in rapid succession. From Meredith, Diane, even numbers he didn't recognize. Text messages flooded in. Vincent, please answer. This isn't what you think. Whatever Natalie told you is a lie. We need to talk now. Vincent silenced his phone, looking across at Natalie. And now we finish it. Chapter 5. The Spider's Web. Bradford Harlow sat across from Meredith at her mother's Bellevue mansion, watching her frantically dial Vincent's number for the 20th time. He's not going to answer, Mare, Bradford said, his handsome face tight with annoyance. So your sister's with him. So what? Maybe they're just talking. Diane paced the ornate living room, her normally perfect composure shattered. Natalie knows everything. That treacherous little. Mother, please, Meredith snapped, tears streaking her makeup. This is a disaster. Vincent's firm handles half the Preston Foundation's development projects. If he exposes this, Bradford's expression darkened. Are you more worried about your father's precious foundation than us? Before Meredith could answer, her phone chimed with a new message from Vincent. A video this time. With trembling fingers, she pressed play. Vincent appeared on screen, the Hawaiian sunset behind him, his expression calm and cold. Meredith, Diane, and Bradford, since I assume you're there too. By now you're wondering what Natalie has told me. Everything as it happens. About the affair, the divorce plans, the scheme to destroy my business. He smiled thinly. What you don't know is what I've been doing these past months as I grew suspicious. Gathering evidence. Securing my business interests. Preparing for the possibility that the woman I loved was living a double life. Vincent leaned closer to the camera. Here's what happens next. Meredith, divorce papers are being delivered to you tomorrow morning. My terms are non-negotiable. Diane, as for your plan to freeze me out of architectural circles, too late. I've already spoken with Preston. Meredith gasped. Her father had always respected Vincent, even when Diane didn't. In Bradford, Vincent continued, his voice dropping dangerously. You should know that I've hired the best private investigators in Seattle. They've compiled fascinating dossiers on your previous married conquests. I wonder how your family's old money reputation would handle that kind of scandal. The video ended with Vincent raising a glass. Enjoy Lake Chelan. Meredith dropped her phone as if it had burned her. How did he know about Lake Chelan? Bradford stood abruptly. This is ridiculous. He's bluffing about the investigators. Is he? Natalie's voice came from the doorway. They whirled to find her standing there, having let herself in with her key. You, Diane hissed. How could you betray your own family? Natalie walked calmly into the room. That's rich coming from you, Mother. You've spent years trying to sabotage Meredith's marriage because Vincent didn't come from the right background. Because you couldn't control him. You went to Hawaii with my husband, Meredith accused, trembling. And you went to Bradford's bed while married to Vincent, Natalie replied evenly. The difference is Vincent and I just talked. I showed him evidence of your betrayal. I told him how you laughed about canceling the anniversary trip he spent months planning. Bradford moved toward the door. I don't need to listen to this family drama. Running already, Bradford? Natalie smiled coldly. Vincent thought you might. That's why he made sure your family found out first. Bradford froze. What are you talking about? The Harlow family received a detailed account of your affair with a married woman and your history with others about an hour ago. Your father sounded particularly distraught when he called Vincent. Bradford's face went ashen. His family's banking business relied on their sterling reputation. Vincent's still in Hawaii, Natalie continued, enjoying the trip he planned for his 10th anniversary. I flew back early to deliver a message. It's over. All of it. Chapter 6, Scorched Foundations. Vincent returned to Seattle 10 days later to find his world fundamentally altered. Word had spread through their social circles about Meredith's affair, Bradford's disgrace, and Diane's machinations. The Preston family name, once Vincent's greatest business asset, had become a liability for those associated with it. Vincent had moved methodically in his absence. His belongings had been removed from their home by a professional service. Divorce papers had been filed with terms that left Meredith the house, but little else, justified by her infidelity, which Vincent had thoroughly documented. Most crucially, he had leveraged his reputation for integrity and innovation to secure his firm standing. Preston Thorne, Meredith's father, had always recognized Vincent's talent. When presented with evidence of his wife and daughter's betrayal, he had made the pragmatic choice to publicly support Vincent, even as his personal relationship with Meredith fractured. Vincent stepped into his office on Monday morning to find Renee waiting with updates. Mr. Preston called again, she said. He wants to confirm your involvement in the waterfront revitalization project. Vincent nodded. Tell him I'll review the proposal. And Mrs. Thorne, Renee hesitated. Ms. Preston has called 17 times since Friday. Former Mrs. Thorne, Vincent corrected coldly. Any messages from her lawyer can go to mine. Personal calls are to be blocked. Later that day, Vincent sat across from Leo Hargrove, his oldest friend and the head of security for Thorne Architectural Solutions. Bradford Harlow has left Seattle, Leo reported. His family shipped him off to their London office. Damage control. Vincent nodded, unsurprised. And the Prestons? Diane's gone uncharacteristically quiet. Preston himself has publicly backed your continued involvement in their projects. Smart business move on his part. Your reputation is stronger than ever after the sympathetic piece in the Business Journal. Vincent hadn't orchestrated the article, but he hadn't corrected its portrayal of him as the wronged husband who maintained professionalism throughout a personal crisis. And Meredith? Vincent asked, his voice carefully neutral. Leo hesitated. She's been trying to salvage her standing at the gallery. Without her mother's influence, it's not going well. The exhibition's been postponed. A knock at the door interrupted them. Natalie Preston entered, looking professional in a Research Foundation blazer. You're late, Vincent observed, checking his watch. Tide pools wait for no man, she replied with a small smile. Did Leo brief you on Bradford's hasty departure? Vincent gestured for her to sit. Just now. Your mother? In social exile, Natalie confirmed. Dad's furious with her. Not just for the affair encouragement, but for nearly compromising his business relationships. He's finally seeing her manipulations clearly. Vincent leaned back in his chair. And how does it feel to be the only Preston still welcome in Seattle society? Natalie's smile turned sad. Lonely, sometimes. But I don't regret standing up for what's right. After she and Leo left, Vincent stood at his office window, watching Seattle's skyline, the same view he'd contemplated before his world imploded. Several of the buildings bore his architectural signature. He had built beauty from nothing before. He would do it again. His intercom buzzed. Mr. Thorne? Meredith Preston is in the lobby. She doesn't have an appointment, but she's insisting on seeing you. Vincent closed his eyes briefly, then made his decision. Send her up. Meredith entered his office looking like a ghost of herself. Beautiful still, but hollowed out, her confidence shattered. Vincent, she began, her voice breaking. Please, can we talk? I've made a terrible mistake. Several. Vincent agreed coolly, remaining seated. Why are you here, Meredith? To apologize. To explain. She moved toward him, tears welling. Bradford meant nothing. It was Mother's idea. She kept pushing us together, telling me you were never really committed to our marriage, that you were using the Preston name. And you believed her, Vincent finished. You chose to believe the worst about the man you married rather than trust 10 years together. I was confused, manipulated. Vincent held up his hand, silencing her. The divorce terms are fair. Your father agrees. Sign the papers, Meredith. Vincent, please, she begged. We could try again. Counseling, time away together. I still love you. Vincent finally stood, his expression impassive. No, Meredith, you don't. You love the idea of me now that your mother's influence has weakened and Bradford has abandoned you. You love that I'm suddenly the man everyone respects while your family name is tarnished. That's not love. What can I do? She whispered brokenly. Accept the consequences of your choices, Vincent answered simply. Now, please leave. I have a business to run. As the door closed behind her, Vincent felt not triumph, but a cold certainty that justice had been served. The foundation of his new life was being laid, free from deception and betrayal. Chapter 7. New Blueprints. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, Vincent stood on the observation deck of the Space Needle, watching a winter storm roll across Puget Sound. Beside him, Natalie pointed toward the water. There, did you see the orca breach? Vincent smiled despite himself. Natalie's enthusiasm for marine life was endearing. Their friendship had developed naturally in the aftermath of the divorce, built on mutual respect and shared values that had nothing to do with the Preston name or connections. How's the Coastal Research Center coming along? He asked, referring to the project he designed for her foundation pro bono. The board approved your final designs yesterday, she confirmed. Construction starts in spring. Vincent nodded, satisfaction warming him against the chill wind. The research center represented his first major project completely independent of Preston influence, a new direction for his firm. His phone vibrated with a text from Leo. Court filing complete. And received papers today. Vincent put the phone away without responding. The second phase of his calculated response to Meredith's betrayal was now in motion. Is it done? Natalie asked, recognizing something in his expression. It's beginning, Vincent corrected. Later that evening, over dinner at a small restaurant far from their usual social circles, Vincent explained the next stage of his plan to Natalie. The divorce settlement left Meredith the house as her primary asset, he said. What she doesn't know is that before we married, I structured the purchase through a holding company. My name isn't on any documents. The holding company has now filed for possession due to missed payments. Natalie's eyes widened. But Meredith hasn't missed any payments. The payments were being automatically deducted from an account I established, Vincent explained. That account was closed last month when the divorce was finalized. Meredith never bothered to check the financial arrangements. She assumed her name on the deed meant ownership. She'll be evicted? Eventually, Vincent confirmed. After legal proceedings drag on long enough to deplete the remaining settlement funds she received. Natalie studied him carefully. You've thought of everything. When someone shows you who they truly are, proper response requires attention to detail. Vincent replied evenly. And Diane? Natalie asked. My mother isn't one to surrender influence easily. Vincent's smile didn't reach his eyes. Diane's social reconstruction project is already failing. The charity board's seats she cherished have mysteriously become unavailable for renewal. The social calendar she once dominated now features events to which she's conspicuously not invited. You didn't. I didn't have to, Vincent said. Seattle society values loyalty and discretion. Once word spread about how Diane encouraged her daughter's infidelity, doors began closing naturally. I merely ensured certain key individuals heard the unvarnished truth. Natalie shook her head slowly. Remind me never to cross you, Vincent Thorne. You never would, he replied with certainty. That's why you're the only Preston I still respect. His phone buzzed again, Meredith calling for the third time that evening. Vincent declined without comment. She'll keep trying, Natalie observed. Yes, Vincent agreed, until she finally accepts that some damage can't be repaired. Chapter 8. Structural Collapse. Mr. Thorne? Renee appeared at his office door, looking uncomfortable. Bradford Harlow is here. He doesn't have an appointment, but he's quite insistent. Vincent raised an eyebrow, surprised. Bradford had returned to Seattle despite the social and professional damage he'd suffered. Interesting. Send him in, Vincent decided, and stay on the intercom line. Bradford entered with an attempt at his former confidence, but the strain of the past year showed in his face. The London exile had not been kind to him. Vincent, he began without preamble. This has to stop. What exactly needs to stop, Bradford? Vincent asked mildly, remaining seated. The blacklisting. The rumors. My family's bank has lost clients because of whispers about my indiscretions. Vincent gestured to the chair across from his desk. Sit down, Bradford. Let's talk like civilized men. Bradford remained standing. I've apologized to Meredith. I've stayed away from her, as you demanded. What more do you want? I haven't demanded anything of you, Vincent pointed out. Your family sent you away, not me. As for clients leaving your bank, perhaps they simply found better service elsewhere. Bullshit, Bradford snapped. 3 major development companies withdrew their accounts last month alone. All 3 are working with your firm on current projects. Vincent shrugged. Business relationships evolve based on trust. Your family's bank appears to have a trust deficit at the moment. Bradford leaned over the desk, his composure cracking. My father is blaming me for everything. My return to Seattle was supposed to prove I could restore a reputation, but doors keep closing. I know you're behind it. You give me too much credit, Vincent said coolly. I'm an architect, not a conspiracy theorist. You've turned Meredith into a social pariah, Bradford continued desperately. She's lost everything, her gallery connections, her standing, even her house. Meredith made choices, Vincent corrected. Those choices had consequences. That's how the world works for those of us who weren't born into privilege, Bradford. We learned early. Bradford straightened, a dangerous gleam entering his eyes. I could hurt you, you know. There are things from your past, before you became the great Vincent Thorne. Vincent stood slowly, his expression hardening. Be very careful with your next words. Something in Vincent's tone made Bradford step back. The mask of civilized conversation dropped entirely. You've systematically destroyed everything, Bradford said quietly. Meredith's life. My family's standing. Even Diane Preston has been exiled from the social circles she once ruled. I've done nothing but allow the truth to come to light, Vincent replied. The destruction was already contained within the lies you all constructed. I simply stopped supporting the facade. Bradford moved toward the door, then turned back. Meredith still loves you, you know, despite everything. No, Vincent said with finality. Meredith loves security and social standing. She's discovered those are difficult to maintain without either her mother's influence or my support. That's not love, Bradford. That's dependency. After Bradford left, Vincent called Leo. Harlow just paid me a visit, he said without greeting. He made vague threats about my past. Find out what he's digging for and shut it down. Already on it, Leo replied. His investigator approached Carson about your early days in the business. Carson called me immediately. Vincent nodded, unsurprised by his friend's efficiency. And Meredith? The house situation. Final eviction notice delivered yesterday. She's moving back in with her parents temporarily. The news should have brought satisfaction, but Vincent felt only cold certainty that justice was being served. He'd given 10 years of his life to a woman who had been planning to discard him once he'd served his purpose. The Preston family had accepted his architectural genius while secretly believing he would never truly belong. The reckoning was merely proportional to the betrayal. That evening, Vincent received a call from Preston Thorne himself, the first direct contact since the divorce. Vincent, the older man, began awkwardly. "I hope you're well. What can I do for you, Preston?" Vincent asked, maintaining professional distance. "It's about Meredith," Preston admitted. "She's not coping well with recent events. The house, her social standing, everything collapsing at once. Diane and I are concerned." "I understand your concern as her father," Vincent replied carefully. "But Meredith's well-being is no longer my responsibility. She was your wife for 10 years, Preston pressed. "Surely there's some compassion." "Was there compassion when she and Diane plotted to destroy my business?" Vincent interrupted coolly. "When they laughed about canceling our anniversary trip? When Bradford was selected as my replacement before I even knew my marriage was ending?" Preston's silence confirmed he understood the magnitude of what his wife and daughter had done. "I don't wish Meredith harm," Vincent continued more softly. "But I won't protect her from the consequences of her actions either." "And Diane?" Preston asked quietly. "Diane made her opinion of me clear from the beginning," Vincent said. "She's finally experiencing what it's like when that contempt is returned." After ending the call, Vincent poured himself a bourbon and stood at his apartment window. The Thorne Tower, his most acclaimed design, stood illuminated against the night sky. They had tried to take everything from him: his marriage, his business, his dignity. Instead, he had emerged stronger, his reputation enhanced by his graceful handling of personal betrayal, his business thriving independently of Preston connections. The complete collapse of Meredith's world wasn't vengeance. It was architectural balance. What is built on deception cannot stand indefinitely. Chapter 9. Final Reconstruction. 1 year to the day after Vincent had sent that fateful message from Hawaii, he stood in the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Olympic Hotel, accepting the Northwest Architectural Excellence Award for the Coastal Research Center. The irony wasn't lost on him. This was the same ballroom where he and Meredith had celebrated their wedding reception a decade earlier. The research center represented everything his new life stood for: innovation unbound by tradition, purpose over pretension, substance over social standing. That Natalie's foundation had commissioned it made the victory sweeter, proof that genuine integrity could survive even within the Preston sphere of influence. As the applause died down, Vincent spotted a familiar figure slipping into the ballroom. Meredith stood near the entrance, thinner than he remembered, watching him with an expression of mingled pride and sorrow. Vincent handed the award to Natalie, who had presented it. "Your sister's here," he murmured. Natalie glanced toward the door. "Do you want me to ask security to remove her?" Vincent considered it, then shook his head. "No need. This is a public event." Later, as the celebration continued, Vincent was not surprised when Meredith approached him during a quiet moment. She wore a simple black dress, a far cry from the designer gowns that had once been her standard attire. "Congratulations," she said softly. "The research center is beautiful. Classic Vincent Thorne, functional yet breathtaking." Vincent nodded acknowledgement. "Thank you for coming." "I had to see it," Meredith said, her eyes searching his. "Your moment of triumph. After everything." "It's just an award," Vincent replied evenly. "No," she disagreed. "It's vindication. You've proven everyone wrong. My mother, Bradford, even me. You didn't need the Preston name to succeed. You never did." Vincent studied the woman he had once loved beyond reason. The vindictiveness that had driven his revenge had burned itself out, leaving only clear-eyed assessment. "How are you, Meredith?" he asked, surprising himself with a genuine question. Surviving, she answered with a small, sad smile. Working at a small gallery in Pioneer Square. Living in an apartment that makes my college dorm look spacious. Learning how to exist without wealth or influence. Your father would help if you asked, Vincent observed. I know, Meredith acknowledged. But I need to do this myself. To understand what you built from nothing, the part of you I never truly appreciated. Vincent felt the last hard knot of anger loosen slightly. Not forgiveness, never that, but perhaps the beginning of indifference. Dad told me what you said to him, Meredith continued. About not wishing me harm, but not protecting me from consequences either. It was fair, more than fair, considering what I did. Why are you really here, Meredith? Vincent asked directly. She took a deep breath. To tell you that you won. Completely. Bradford left Seattle permanently after your last encounter. Mother's social rehabilitation efforts have failed entirely. And I understand now what I threw away. It's not about winning, Vincent corrected. It's about justice. Balance. Is there any path back? Meredith asked, her voice barely audible. Not to marriage, I know that's gone forever, but to some kind of peace between us. Vincent considered her question carefully. Peace requires acceptance, Meredith. I've accepted what happened and moved forward. Have you truly accepted your role in it? Or are you simply adapting to the consequences? Before she could answer, Natalie appeared at Vincent's side. Sorry to interrupt, but the mayor is asking for you, Vincent. Meredith nodded in understanding. I should go. Congratulations again on the award. It's well deserved. As she turned to leave, Vincent spoke once more. Meredith. She paused, hope flickering across her face. The gallery in Pioneer Square. Sandra's place? Yes, she confirmed, surprised he knew it. She's good people, Vincent said simply. Honest. No shortcuts. You could learn a lot there about building something real. It was as close to a blessing as he could offer. Not forgiveness, but acknowledgement that her path forward might have value. After she left, Natalie gave him a questioning look. Everything okay? Yes, Vincent replied, surprised to find it true. Let's join the mayor. Later that night, Vincent stood on the balcony of his downtown penthouse, contemplating the city he had helped shape. The vindictive satisfaction of watching his betrayers fall had gradually been replaced by something more sustaining. Pride in what he had built without them, on his own terms. His phone buzzed with a text from Leo, Bradford Harlow's family bank, announcing merger tomorrow. Effectively the end of the Harlow financial legacy. Vincent didn't respond immediately. The news would have brought fierce joy months ago. Now he felt only quiet confirmation that the natural order had reasserted itself. Those who built on deception would eventually watch their creations crumble. He thought briefly of Diane Preston, now reportedly at a spa retreat in Arizona, recovering from exhaustion. Social code for her complete expulsion from the circles she had once dominated. Of Preston himself, still a respected businessman, but notably more subdued at public events. Of Meredith, learning at last what it meant to build something through genuine effort rather than connection or manipulation. The complete destruction of their former lives hadn't been Vincent's explicit goal, merely the inevitable result of removing his support from their house of cards while ensuring his own foundation remained unshakable. Vincent turned back to the warm light of his penthouse. On his desk lay preliminary sketches for a bold new project, a mixed-use development that would transform an overlooked section of the city, providing both luxury spaces and affordable housing in an innovative arrangement. It would be his masterpiece, designed entirely on his terms, backed by investors who valued his vision rather than his connections. The man who had once desperately sought acceptance from old Seattle society now defined it on his own terms. The ruthless architect had redesigned not just skylines, but social landscapes, proving that true power lay not in names or bloodlines, but in the ability to envision and create a new reality. Vincent Thorne raised his glass to the city below, a private toast to lessons learned and balances restored. The anniversary deception had destroyed one life, but created another, stronger and true. In architecture, as in personal integrity, the strongest foundations were those built honest from the ground up. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen, and I'll see you there.